rust. Think about rusting from as the seasons begin to change. But we also know it's about Thanksgiving, okay? It's not just our holiday Thanksgiving, but Thanksgiving. This is a time to thank the earth for its bounty. It's a good time to thank friends, family, loved ones. It's a good time to thank ourselves because we're reaping, the seeds that we sowed early on in the year. There's some, if you look at it, you may find some things that started at the beginning of the year that are now coming into fruition. Okay? So we say thank you tonight for a bountiful harvest. Anybody can just see the table in there. We thank you for family, friends, love, peace, even the challenges that help us to grow in strength and goodness. And so it is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Heather Friedman Rivera.
Dr. Heather's fine. Or just Heather.
Just have to keep, it'll flow.
Okay.
It's going to transform our lives tonight. And why? Because we're going to let her. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Because we are here to really drop whatever we don't need. We're here to explore something new and curious. And we can be as skeptical as we want about past life regressions. It's cool. I think skepticism's mwah. But you can just leave it on the doorstep out there. You can pick it up on the way home. Because that's the time when you're going to be able to scrutinize and wonder and go research the information on your laptop. Or if it didn't quite work for you the way you'd like to, maybe you'd find to learn about yourself that there's other ways to communicate with your interior, with your whatever going on in your life. So this is going to be exciting, whatever way. And you're just all so full of love. So I want you to come up with one word, and you're going to shout it out. I'm going to point at you, okay? And that one word is going to be about the transformation you want, okay? All right? So I'm going to point to myself. Carol, clarity. See how it goes? Heather.
Peace.
Barbara.
Receiving.
Oh.
Mary, love.
Mary, focus.
Ryan, education.
Nina, clarity.
Liz, transition forward.
I'm going to say peace.
Mark.
That's mine.
Fulfillment.
Name?
Susan.
Susan.
Linda, love.
Linda, love.
Angela, focus.
Goes good.
Tony, growth. Peace.
And your name?
Martha. Claudia, knowledge.
Carolyn, forgiveness.
Vicky, peace.
Oh, beautiful. I'm so excited for each and every one of you what you're going to be able to get from that, whatever step you're going to take. So just take a moment and look around and just say whatever your energetic prayer is for the well-being and the growth and the evolution of each of us, okay? Just look around. Just that friendly little look at each other and just try to catch the head or the face or whatever, maybe not the eyes, and just let that be your way of praying for the welfare and benefit and transformation of each of us. Because we actually find out that when our DNA is touched by another person, guess what? Our DNA actually makes a shift. Did you know that? We can't measure that. So you've just shifted everybody's DNA. You better make sure you did that right. Don't tease me. It's powerful. You're all powerful. So Dr. Heather Friedman Rivera, otherwise known as Dr. Heather, I'm so looking forward to us transforming you. We get to film you. But I'm not going to film anybody else, so don't worry about it. Okay?
Okay, you can film me.
I have two cameras. You know where the other one goes.
Computer on their lap now. She's my tech support tonight.
Thank you. Let's see what happens when I'm disappeared.
Good when you live with the tech support too, huh?
What?
It's good when you live with the tech support too.
Oh, yeah.
Here, here.
Looks like it's Ready? Okay. I just want to say, first of all, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Carol Francis, for...
Oh, now we're doing the Dr. Carol Francis. I see how it is now. Okay.
ethical and respect the doctor here. And thank you to a lot of people I've already met before and heard me on the radio or seen me speak before. Thank you so much for coming out and supporting me again. And my sister came too. This is my sister Ryan.
Oh,
my younger baby sister, the cute one in the family. And then of course this is my husband Mark. Mark is he's a science advisor for our institute. He happens to have a master's in physics, and so he's the brain here. Okay, so I'm just going to go with what we're going to do tonight is...
There's only one brain in here?
Yeah, that's one right here.
And it belongs to a man?
It does.
Oh, I don't think I'm
my
going to.
family.
Mark, I know you're brainy, but I know the rest of us are too.
You know, we have to stroke his ego.
No, we don't. He's cool.
You haven't figured this out yet. This is how
No,
we
no. Hi.
keep him- help me out.
Keep me happy.
Hello. I'm Heather.
Darielle.
Okay. My disclaimer, I'm hearing impaired. I wear bilateral hearing aids, but if I don't hear you, that's not ignoring you. I just don't know what you're saying.
Yeah, likely excuse.
So
All
what
right.
I was going to go tonight is what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about my story, how I got into past life. It was a very different shift for me from where I came from, and about the research study we did, and about probably talk about for about a half hour or so, 20 minutes maybe, and then we'll take a short break, and then we'll do regression. We'll do a past life regression, but we'll go into a past life that's a pleasant past life. This is the group experience, and so we'll go into a pleasant past life. This is not therapy. And then we'll have some time for discussion afterwards where you guys can tell if you had your experience, and you can write I have some paper here if you want to write down what's going on with you. And then afterwards we'll talk about some of the upcoming events we have coming up. We have a retreat coming up in November. A bunch of specials, and I'll talk about that. And we'll wrap up. Talk about some of the books that I wrote. And maybe we'll show you the book trailer that Mark created for the novel that just came out. So,
And her 2 books are available for you
yeah, they're
on the stand. And
they're-
they're good reads. Oh my gosh.
the first one is the book on my study and my journey. I went from skeptic to believer in past life regression therapy. I think some people already have that book. Yeah. Okay. And so that one I'm selling tonight for $12 is a discount tonight here. And then this is my novel that just came out. It's a past life romance novel. And it's an interesting story how this came about, so I'll tell you about that later. But I'm selling this one for 10 or 2 for 20. So, and I'll sign them for you. Okay, Mr. Mark, can you do the next slide for me? I'm going to go and sit for as much as I can. I did tear my MCL in August, and so I'm not so comfortable standing so much. So I'm going to sit for a little while. So who am I? My PhD is in parapsychic science, and that's kind of a strange topic, but that's what I got into. I've been a registered nurse since the 80s. I should probably up that, but it looks better right now. I don't want to say 25, so yeah. And I'm the co-founder of the PLR Institute. My husband and I founded this institute, which is the Past Life Research Institute, that we conduct studies on past life. And really what we're not looking at right now is whether reincarnation is real or not, but what are the benefits and are they measurable? And that's what we're going to talk about. We have 2 studies going on right now. And I also have a doctorate in law. And I'm the author of 2 books. And I had a profound healing from PLR, past life regression, that put me on this path. My story is also in Dr. Weiss's book, Miracles Happen, on page 56. So, in his new book that came out last October. And, of course, we have a great science advisor on the team, Mark.
My ego feels good.
Put the little
right.
Einstein next to him. You feel happy now? Okay. So,
He just takes it and smiles.
He's smart.
You're good.
I'm going to tell you what happened. Next slide, sweetie. So that's Dr. Brian Weiss. I don't know if anyone knows who Dr. Brian Weiss is. I went and trained with him at Omega in New York in 2010. I was younger there. So let me tell you what happened. In 1997, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. And I'm a registered nurse. And I know what rheumatoid does. It's an autoimmune disease, and it actually attacks pretty much everything, every joint in your body. And I don't know if you know that, but there's little joints in your ears, and you see I have hearing loss now. There's a joint in your larynx. All my joints in my hands, my heart was affected. And I was pretty devastated because at that time I was working full-time, going to law school, and raising 6 boys. Yeah. And when I first found out rheumatoid, when I first started working with it in the 80s, people were crippled. And I just couldn't handle that being crippled. So I would see this rheumatologist, and he put me on a bunch of medication. He says, you know, it's really progressing very fast. You have an 80% chance you'll probably be crippled in 5 years. I was devastated. I was terrified. And I could not just wait in between the 3 months of appointments to just wait and see what he was going to say next. I had to have some kind of control in my life. So I took myself down to San Diego to try to get some clarity, and I actually made my first attempt at prayer. I was pretty much an agnostic and didn't believe anything like that. And absolutely nothing happened, or so I thought. But what did happen is I got really mad. And so I actually went to a cafe and I started making a list of everything I could do to have control of my life. I could change my diet. I could find out about disease process. I could learn about alternative therapies. And so I started applying these things in my life, and I started getting a little better. So I started taking these classes at the American Institute of Holistic Theology, and it was really all just selfish. I was scared and worried for me. I wasn't thinking about helping anyone else. I take these classes, and they had strange things like color therapy, and this, I'm very Western. I'm in law school, you know. I'm an RN. I don't go into any woo-woo stuff, but I was desperate. So I tried acupuncture and biofeedback and color therapy and sound therapy and magnets, and I didn't go with the bee stings. I'm terrified of bees, but I hear the bee venom therapy works pretty good. And there was a class, so I go all the way through. I get to my bachelor's degree in this. And then I start working on my master's. Now, as I said, it affects every single joint in my body. And now it has affected the little joint in my throat. Mm-hmm. And I spoke at a whisper most days. I could not talk on the phone. I had to make special accommodations with work because I couldn't be in an environment that would bother my throat. And I went through speech therapy. I've been scoped by a bunch of ENTs. And, you know, basically, this is a rheumatoid. You got to live with it. So, in my master's class, one of the master's classes was a class on hypnosis, which was interesting, but, you know, I didn't really know much about it. And then there was this little small section about past life regression therapy, and I thought, well, what the heck is that? That's kind of strange. And so I thought, well, you know, for entertainment only, I'd like to give it a try, you know, just for fun. So I made an appointment, did some research, and I found this woman named Dr. Donna Kennard, and she's actually in Santa Ana.
Oops, sorry.
Oh!
Okay.
Am I stuck on something? I'm sorry.
It's okay. So Dr. Donna Kennard, she's in Santa Ana, and I made an appointment to see her. And she didn't know my history. She just knew I was coming in for curiosity, for entertainment. I thought, well, my intention was just as if you were walking down a carnival boardwalk and went to see a palm reader. Sorry, you're not palm reading, I know. Or psychic, and you think, oh, this would be fun for a little entertainment. That's my intention when I saw this therapist. And she said, and when I went to see her, of course, I had no voice, just like I was most days. So she says, have you been under hypnosis before? And I said, no. And she said, she's going to do a progressive relaxation, whereas you relax all the muscles in your body, and we'll go through that tonight. And then then she has me come down a stairway in my mind and into a garden. And then in this garden, she said, there's a library. And I thought, this is kind of cool because I like books. And she said, in this library, there will be a section of books, and they'll have your name on it. And so I did see this section of books, and it had like this gold binding on it. And she said, one of them will call to you. And there's one that was kind of sticking out further than the rest. So I pulled that one out, and I'm already getting goosebumps here because this is just very emotional for me. So I sit down in this table in this library, and I start turning the pages. And she says to me, one page will call to you. And sure enough, there was this page on the right side. It was a color plate. And it was a picture of a knight, and a white horse was kneeling in front of him. And the knight had this shield, and I could see the heraldry very clearly. And the next thing you know, I whooshed into the knight's body, and I was quite startled. And all of a sudden, I could feel this heavy armor on my body, and I could feel dampness. and I could feel hunger in my belly, and I felt this intense sense of duty. And I'm lying in her chair, and I'm actually holding onto my shield and my sword. I will not let go of these imaginary weapons in my hands. And she says, I'd like you to progress to the next significant event in that lifetime. And I was on a field of green in battle, but I was on foot. And I thought, well, shouldn't I be on a horse like I see in medieval times? But no, I'm on foot. And I'm fighting, and the next thing you know, I'm stabbed in the throat. And I'm laying on this grass, and I start choking and gagging on blood. And so as I'm laying in her office, I'm gagging and choking. And she says, no, look at it like it's on a screen. Pull out of your body and look at it like you're just watching a movie. Detach. But I was so caught up in him. I couldn't leave him. I wanted to go through the process with him. And so I died with that night. And then I left his body, and this was my first spiritual experience of my entire life. I had this sense of expansiveness. I was huge, and I felt this love and connection with everybody, and I felt the most intense peace I've ever had in my whole entire life. And I thought, I could stay in this place forever. And then she's calling me back, so I go back into Heather's body, and she pulls me out of the hypnosis. And I said, oh my God, Donna, that was amazing. But I said it with this voice. I went in with no voice and came out with this voice. I thought, well, that's kind of strange. I thought, was that just a fluke? Or did just remembering me being stabbed in the throat, did that heal me from my chronic laryngitis? So the next morning I wondered, and I pick up the phone for work, and I say, hello, this is Heather. And my voice is clear. And the next day, and the next day. And I've never lost my voice since that day. So, that's my story. So this got me very curious. Next slide, sweetie. So I became obsessed with past lives. I read everything I could on past lives. And this is what I found. There were so many stories. There were so many case studies and anecdotes about people having healings, spontaneous healings, from remembering a past life experience. But I couldn't find any data. And so now I'm going to work on my doctorate degree. And so I trained with Dr. Brian Weiss at Omega. I saved my money, and you don't know what I went to. I mean, I picked up poop to save money. I picked up poop for people's houses to raise money to go to Omega. That's how desperate I was to go to this training with Dr. Weiss. And I asked him about it. I said, I'm thinking about doing a study where I actually will measure these people's benefits that they're talking about, because I'm very Western minded and I need to see numbers. And I figure, that only the Western world is going to listen to numbers. They're not going to listen to the power of this therapy unless they see data. And he said, that's very ripe. And so this is what we did. And well, those two reasons this is very important. For the practitioner, those of you who are practicing, you'd want to know if this is going to be an effective treatment for your clients. But also for the client, you'd want to know, if you're going to go and take a pill, you'd want to know, is that effective for that problem? Does it have any side effects? And so this is what we did. We launched a survey. We created the survey, and how we did it was I looked at all the healings that I saw, the ones I read, the ones I observed, the ones I experienced. And we came up with these statements, and people could rate them. And then we sent it out on the internet, and we collected surveys from all over the world. And that's what I'm going to share with you tonight, what came out of that study. Is there any questions so far? You can always interrupt me if you have a question.
The question about your rheumatoid arthritis?
Yeah, rheumatoid arthritis, that's a good question.
With the past life regression? And how
Right.
that...
I did not get rid of my rheumatoid arthritis by the time I wrote the book. But I also had fibromyalgia, rheumatoid, hearing loss, chronic laryngitis. Somehow my fibromyalgia disappeared. And I didn't think about it. I was like, I don't suffer those symptoms anymore. And I didn't really equate it to anything except for the fact that I was better. And then I went to see my rheumatologist. I'm seeing my rheumatologist every 3 months. I'm on Humira. I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to do. I went to see my rheumatologist in April, May, somewhere around there. And he says, I don't know how to explain this, but your test came back negative. This test we take every single year. It came back negative this time. I don't think you have rheumatoid anymore. So, I was on Humira every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks. I took a dose. He's been weaning me off. I took a dose in June. I take my last dose in November, and then I'm off it completely.
Wow.
Yay! Some of my hearing loss, that's the next thing. We're working on that.
Tonight.
Yeah.
Question. Your study, you said you did a survey, it was quantitative, the whole thing was quantitative?
Yes.
The way you did it? Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to show you the results of that
Okay.
tonight. So, next slide. Okay, so this is a survey format that I told you about these 25 declarative statements. They were statements like, I have a greater sense of peace and contentment in my life. That was one of the statements. And then you could rate that from 1 to 7. 1 being strongly disagree, 4 being neither agree nor disagree, and then 7 strongly agree. So you have a wide range of what to pick from. It's a confidential survey that's on the internet at pastlifesurvey.org. My card is up there, but you can always get it from plrinstitute.org, our website. And then we also asked demographic questions. So, country origin and age, gender, religion, religious upbringing. We wanted to know that, and how the past life was facilitated. Was it by a hypnotherapist like me? Or was it a psychic or a deja vu? So we wanted to know that. And also things like, what prompted you to have that past life experience? For me, it was curiosity. Some people have a personal issue or a physical issue. People that have chronic back pain that's not solved by any doctor. So this is the last resort. They try past life regression therapy. And we wanted to know that too. And so we'll talk about that too. And then we never really cared about whether they believed that reincarnation was real or not, or anything, because to us it was, if you were taking a pill, it didn't matter if you, it was like, I don't know if we didn't know if it was placebo effect. Do you believe in the power of the pill or not? Or we didn't look at that, but maybe we should someday.
No, I think it shows up in the data with the people who were the
In-person investigators, and we'll talk about that too.
Yeah, it does show up.
I wanted to point out a really interesting thing about my thing is that when I was in my regression, I was saying to myself, well, shouldn't I get on my horse? Remember I said that? Well, shouldn't I be on my horse? Because I'm thinking. So Mark bought me a book on knights, and it said just recently, and it says, contrary to popular belief, knights just did not be on their horse when they're in battle. They actually dismounted their horse because the horse is very expensive, and they dismounted. So I actually had a memory that was more true with historical things, and even though my mind was fighting it, but I remembered it. What's the sort of
The heraldry too.
The herald. Yeah, I did. The heraldry I saw very clearly. I searched and searched for that heraldry, and I did find it. I did find him. His name is Murdoch.
She described to me exactly how it looked and even drew a little picture.
Uh-huh.
And we were looking for this heraldry for a couple of years, I
Yeah,
think.
a couple years.
And I thought, oh, we're never going to find it. She just invented something. And then one day she started screaming, it's on a poster.
It's on a poster. Yeah.
And there it was. Exactly what we've been looking for.
I'm sorry, guys. We've got coyotes and I've got pets. So when I hear that, I'm sorry. That's really disruptive.
Pets are more important.
Oh, so, can you want to go to the next slide,
Your
sweetie?
cat's right here, though. We're looking at your cat right here.
She's got,
She has dogs.
several of them too.
It sounds like a small puppy.
So we're just going to show you a couple of the slides, and then this is one of the demographics, and you see that 83% of the people that took the survey were female, and the ages are about 40 to 54, I think. 17% male. I kind of figure that the women that take the survey during the age range is probably because, by this time your kids move out, you have more time to explore things in your life, and so this is the time period that people start exploring, So it kind of made sense for me. I read an article about the empty nest syndrome. Kids move out, and you actually have some time now to find out more about yourself. Hello. This is Jorge.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
I just
This
can't see
is
anymore.
Cedar.
All right, good. Thanks. She barely woke up. I'm glad I could make it on time. Almost.
So we're just talking about the, I went through my story, we're just talking about
Okay.
some of the data. We haven't got to the introduction,
that's
okay?
awesome. Okay,
And
cool.
some next slide, sweetie. So the next thing I'm showing you is what prompted the people to have the experience, and you can see that most people that prompted them was curiosity, just like what I said. Then we have these people. The next one was like memory. They just had a spontaneous memory or personal issue, and the reason I have personal issue, I want to talk about that later with you. Searching for purpose in their life. And then these people called in personal investigators, and we'll talk about them later. They're pretty interesting. They're probably one of the most interesting parts of the study for us. So here was the actual results. And this was the degree of benefits. You can see it has this nice range here. It just follows this trend. But I don't know if you can see there's a line and there's a dot. The dot is the finding. We're 90% confident of that finding. We have a 5% on either way. And that's what the line is. The more surveys that we get in, the more solid that dot will be. We'll close in that line. We have 289 surveys to date. This is the last data run was at 260. We'll probably run it again about 300.
Yeah. The way I look at it is you've got the type of benefit listed, and then that's the degree of the benefit. So we've ranked the benefits from highest to
Right.
lowest.
And this is based on the strongly disagree, strongly agree chart. But the next one will give you the percentage, which I think is a little bit easier to understand.
Yeah.
This is benefit by percentage. So 78% of the people, the major benefit of past life regression therapy, and is contrary to what all the books and videos and media promotes, is death no longer holds as much fear for me. That is a major benefit of past life regression therapy, which kind of makes sense because if you thought that you lived before and you're living now and you're going to live again, you're not so afraid of death anymore. So that is the actual major finding. All the major findings at the top here are more about how you feel, about peace and contentment in your life and connectedness, all those kind of things, the things that are more subjective. Those are the major benefits of past life therapy. The things that the media talks about, the things that are in the books, physical healings, fears and phobias, those are a little lower down the list. So physical healings, like me, spontaneous physical healing, it's only 22% overall have a spontaneous physical healing, 33% loss of fear or phobia, and 43% have a spiritual healing. Now, what about negative outcomes? Only 3%. Very low, very safe. Only 3% experience it, and that's way down at the bottom. I had a negative outcome, only 3% at the bottom. But you know what's interesting about the physical healings? So I went and polled the people that actually went in because of a physical problem, and 85% of those got the physical healing. Mm-hmm. So they were seeking that, and they got that. I thought that was just fascinating. But 22% of Anything else you want to say about that?
Yeah, just I think later we'll split it out by demographics.
That's
You'll
next.
see how the demographics might change.
I think that's the next slide, sweetie. So this is when we got excited. We're kind of strange. This is what excites us. We don't have television at home. This is what we do. So we differentiate out by number of experiences. So those people that had 1 to 2 experiences, past life experiences, like the one you're going to have tonight, those are in blue. Now they still got benefit, but look at what a difference it is when they had 3 to 7 in green. You remember that, Mary? We're talking on the radio. Yeah. So 3 to 7. And then you see where it says 8 and above, the red? It really doesn't change all that much. It kind of just levels out after that point. I kind of call it fine-tuning. Mm-hmm. You know, you had your major healings at the beginning. Like for me, the physical healing and the spiritual healing all up in the beginning. And now it's just a little fine-tuning. So it looks like 3 to 7 is the max, is the optimum.
Yeah, so anything this way is less benefit, anything that way is more benefit.
Heather, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
In regard to the negative percentage that you got, were you able to know what some of those negative experiences
question.
were?
Thank you. You know, we did not ask that in the beginning. We just said, did you have a negative experience? we have now added that. If you had a negative experience, please tell us what it was. So I had to go back and pull all the people that said they had a negative experience to see what was going on with them. And all of them said that they had it was highly emotional for them. And so I'm wondering if they thought that the emotion that came up, it's very cathartic. Today we're doing a pleasant past life. But you know, if you're in therapy, you're working on an issue, and I was crying I was crying a lot so I understand, and maybe they just can't, they thought that was a negative. So, some other people said things like they missed that time period. They wish they can go back. And so they felt loneliness for that. So Mark did this crazy chart.
Yeah.
And it just shows that we have some wide fluctuations at the end, because we had some people that said one said they had 242 experiences. But most people said they had between 1 and 10 experiences. That was the average. And you can see that it up to about, 20, we can kind of chart it, and then it just gets kind of wild here.
Yeah. You can see there's kind of a climb, and then it just sort of levels off.
Yeah, levels off. Just about remember I said about after the 8, just kind of levels off.
So the degree of benefit they reported kind of flattened off after about 5 experiences, but there was a pretty steady climb from 1 to 5.
I have a question.
Yeah.
To maybe refine it more, did they have those sessions? What time period did they have them over? Was it a 20-year time period or a 1-year time period?
We did look at that.
You did look at that.
We looked at what we called the time, the duration of the treatment, but also, we looked at duration of experience, the duration of the treatment, and the time since you had those treatments, to see if there was any decline in benefits reported with the passage of time, like 10, 20 years.
And we have a chart for that too, but we did find that there was not, the benefits did not diminish over time.
Yeah, benefits not diminish over time.
Well, I think I was wondering, you have 5 or 6 visits and a lot of changes, but then 20 years later, you're a different person, you're in a different stage of life. I wonder if it would be beneficial to do it from that point of life, and so I don't know, that would be something I would look at too.
Yeah.
Can you just walk me a little bit through this chart, because I'm not quite getting it? This is the number of experiences.
Yes.
So the one at the end's got like 100 experiences.
Yes.
Okay. And this is the average agreement of responses of all statements.
Right.
So what is that exactly?
It's measuring, since there's various types of benefits, we just lumped all the benefit into all the types of benefits into one benefit, if you will.
So the number comes out lower. It's not going to come up to 7 because we average all of them together.
You average people, you average the people that have the same benefits, or you averaged
I'll show you.
all 25 questions together? That's what I don't get.
So if you look at these responses, if we were to average across all of this,
all 25 together.
Yeah, if we were to average all these together, it would probably fall
within
in that middle.
Okay, got it.
Okay, next slide. So then we did this differentiation by prompting. What prompted the person to have the past life experience? And blue is curiosity, like what I went in for. But you see the ones that got the most benefit were red. Do you see that? Kind of red just pulls away from the rest of the group. Those are the ones that have personal issues or physical issues, or searching for purpose in their life, or have a physical problem. They actually got more benefit from past life regression therapy than the rest of the groups. Now, the ones in black, you see they're way down over here. And they actually, if you look at the negative outcome, they'll have a little more negative outcomes. And what are those? Those are impersonal investigators. And impersonal investigators are people that are hostile, that are skeptics, that came in to write a scathing article about how horrible past life regression therapy is, but had an experience anyway, and took my survey.
How did you know that they were that, if it was anonymous? How are you determining?
There's a place to put that.
Demographics.
Okay.
Yeah.
We asked why did you seek past?
I
Do
know.
you believe in past life therapy? Why did you seek it, etc.
Got it.
Right.
So the people on the far end, or people on the red, were actually had a targeted purpose. They had a reason for going in.
Mm-hmm.
The people in black had no reason, no personal reason to go in.
One did it on a dare. He wrote that. He said he was actually on TV. He was a police officer. And he's on TV.
Yeah, his friends dared.
And he found out that he was some artist in New Orleans. He found his artwork in a gallery. But he was completely skeptic, just did not dare. Another woman who went to write an article about how horrible this was. She had a spiritual healing. She went back to school and got her PhD in transpersonal psychology, and specialized in past life regression therapy. So the interesting part about these impersonal investigators, we like them because they're a little bit different than people that are just seeking it and they believe in it. But they get more benefit than anyone else in my religious views or perspectives have widened.
Yeah, if you notice, black's always the least until you get to that one question. Then it's the furthest to the right.
I thought that was really fascinating. Okay, next one for you. And that was just, now this is all the demographics, and it's showing you how they, the differentiation. So the number of experiences is the major driver or the major influencer of past life regression therapy. How many experiences you have. The next one is what prompted you, like the physical issue, the searching for purpose. And then how sensory it was for you, how vivid it was for you. I could smell and I could feel and I could taste, and I could see everything as a night. And so it made it more sensory, more real to me because I was there with him. And then, of course, if you look at this thing, this is interesting. The age and your sex and your religion, they really don't have, this is just noise lines, statistical noise. So anything below that doesn't really count. We're looking at anything above it. But you see that your age, your sex, and your religion don't really significantly affect it. So it didn't matter if you were a Buddhist that believed in reincarnation or a Catholic that didn't believe in reincarnation. Your upbringing, that didn't matter. It didn't matter what age you were. It didn't matter if you're male or female. It had equal benefit for you. In fact, we collected these surveys from all over the world. Every country that we have them from.
And if you understanding this chart, if you see how the different groups were split out, okay, I guess I'd call that separation is what I'm calling the differentiation between the two groups. And so if you just look at that differentiation by demographic, largest differentiating to the least differentiating. So it showed if I tried to differentiate responses based on If I tried to differentiate responses based on sex, I couldn't really see much differentiation.
Okay.
If I tried to differentiate based on why they went in to go have a session, then I would see this differentiation start to emerge.
And also facilitation didn't affect it either. How it's facilitated, hypnotherapist, or whether you went to a psychic or dreams as well. Okay, so next chart, sweetie. So what does it all mean? So there's many positive findings, more peace and contentment, loss of fear of death, greater sense of purpose, physical healings, and fears and phobias were helped, but they're lower on the list. The major influencers, again, were the number of experiences, what prompted the experience, how vivid it was for you, and your religious and cultural upbringing didn't seem to significantly affect the findings. There's only 3% had a negative, so I think that's really great.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Did it matter the time between sessions?
Yeah, I didn't ask that either. There's I think 12 or 13 demographic questions we asked, and then 25 declarative statements. And then we have a space where it says if we miss something, please fill it in. And I actually haven't had anybody come up with something that we actually missed. But and we tweak it when we find trends, and we go, we should. At first, we forgot to ask country of origin. I didn't think of it until I started getting these people that realize with an S, and I thought, I'd like to know where the people come from. So then we started asking that too, It gets fine-tuned all the time as we find things that we should
And it's
ask.
kind of like you start to study the data, and then you start to have questions based on the data you're looking at, and then you go back and go, darn, I should have asked that question.
Opening a can of worms.
So so what we do is we just add another question to the survey, and from that point forward, we start collecting that information.
So the country of origin doesn't have that big. We couldn't put that so much in the book because we didn't have enough data. Now we're able to map them.
And at first, you're not really sure what kind of information you need because you don't know what the results are going to show. But once the results start showing trends, then you start thinking about things you could have asked them. So it's kind of a chicken and egg problem.
Next one. So why do I study this? Well, then I want to bring awareness of another therapeutic technique to people. And I'm really interested in trying to bridge the gap between the Western world and the New Age world. I still work in Western medicine, and they still talk about hypnotherapy as quackery. And so I really want to go and help bridge that gap. I want to dispel misconceptions about what it is and what it isn't. That it's it's not time travel. And it's not the devil's work. I've had people walk out of the room on me. So, and I'm just trying to help educate. We're a nonprofit organization and provide resources, increase understanding. We have a board of qualified professionals, different therapists, Mark, a couple MFTs and hypnotherapists, and Reverend on our board. They all volunteer their time to helping us with these studies. And so we have a second study that came out. Go ahead, next one. So I want to provide some resources to you. Well, you can always contact us at plrinstitute.org. We have all the contacts, all the board members, and they're always willing to help out. And let's say that you're so excited about this, you want to try it yourself. Of course, there's a bunch of therapists in here that have private practices and can help you. Mary O'Malley, Dr. Carol Francis. I'm sure anyone else is a hypnotherapist in here. Oh yes, Jorge's hypnotherapist. God, we're filled with hypnotherapists here.
Liz.
So, in addition to that, there is this book, Through Time and Healing, Dr. Weiss's book. He has a script in the back. You can always have someone read it to you, or tape it into a recorder and play it back, or if that's just too much work, he has a CD in the back of this one, Mirrors of Time. But some people don't like hypnosis, and they're scared of it. They think that they're going to get stuck, and so they don't want to do that. There's Past Life, Present Miracles by Denise Lane. Anybody want to share anything, an experience? Yes, Mary.
I started out on a lawn playing croquet.
Oh, okay.
Feeling a little like I didn't know where. Did I belong with the kids or did I belong with the grown-ups? And I realized I was about a 17-year-old, 16, 17-year-old young man. And then as we moved through, I went to college, because actually I was in Denmark. And then I ended up going to university in London, England.
Wow.
And studying business because I was under a lot of pressure from the family to do that. But I didn't want to do it, but I didn't know what else I wanted to do. And then I met a woman and fell in love, and she showed me it didn't matter what I did, that the only thing that mattered was that we loved.
Oh.
Having that experience with that person throughout all of our lives. And it was just beautiful. It was just beautiful that throughout all the trials, up, down, everything that we went through, the going back to that precious state of love, and that how much everything else did not matter. It only mattered the moment and how you lived in the moment. It was really, it was really nice.
Thank you for sharing that. That's wonderful. Anyone else have anything that they... Was everyone able to drink out of the fountain, the crystal clear waters?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you? What about the childhood? You able to go back to childhood memory? No. Jorge.
I went to a childhood memory that was easy, and I also went to my safe place. I went there very good. I always go there, but I mean I know how to train. I mean, just go there instantly, but. But and then I imagine the beach, right, with the fog and everything. I kind of did see nothing, but I saw kind of like a ocean. I was just watching it, and I tried going somewhere else, but that's it. That's all. I don't know. I'm pretty. Maybe I don't need to remember anything. Maybe I remember.
Anybody else want to share?
I had a very bizarre one, so probably completely not even
What?
discussable. I had a very bizarre one.
Okay.
So it started, and I was kind of surprised since I was attending to the dog. And suddenly I just looped into a very young child being exposed to an emotional predator, and how an emotional predator kind of tried to loop me into infiltrating my soul, my spirit, my body with malintent. And it was just very interesting to walk through that. At first I said, I don't really want to do this one. This is not what I want to. But it was just such a moment of clarity of that experience, and taking that experience and saying, you may have done this to me in the past, but I don't accept that you would ever do this to me, not even in this memory. And I started to attack him. And that was a very interesting, a release of aggression and intent and clarity. And in the process of attacking, I won't go into all the details, began to do some of the shamanic work that I do with the process of it, which again I was kind of surprised at. And shamanic's very detailed, and I'm not going to get into it, but it was, again, with the intent of being able to understand the predator and not at the same time render powerlessly to the predator, and try to understand what did that mean for the entire human race, so to speak, as we're all kind of moving through our human experiences with people who are not so cool to interact with and people who are just amazing to interact with, and differentiating, understanding how that feels and what that looks like and what that's all about. So it was really, I could go on, but I won't. So I've taken up enough time. But
It's definitely
it's
like
interesting.
something to write out.
Yeah, but it really was completely not even on my mind or what I would have expected exploring. So I think that's when I want to pay attention, when it's just like way outside what I would have ever gone to,
Definitely.
knowingly.
So you tend to control you or something?
Yeah.
Play your mind?
Yes.
Mind games?
Yes, controller, manipulator, seducer, all for malintent.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Mark, did you have an experience this time?
Yeah, a little bit. Like when we went to the childhood, I didn't have a memory so much as I saw myself. I was in my safe haven, and I saw myself as a little boy, and I just communicated to him what I felt like I needed to communicate to him. And then when we were going into the past life, I did get some impressions about. I saw these weaved baskets tipped over, and what was ever in them was spilled out. And I wasn't sure if it was like I lived in some village. I wasn't sure if someone had attacked the village or what had happened. And then later I got the impression that there was a flood.
Oh.
And it's kind of weird. I had this pet rodent of some type. And my pet rodent was dying. But what was interesting was my first image of something was my very first image was seeing the front of a boat that was sort of intricately carved and was plying the water. And I knew I was on some river somewhere. And then that switched to this scene of baskets tipped over. So I had the impression I was living in a village on a river somewhere, and there had been a flood. And you had asked about the person most important in your life. And my parents came, even though I was an adult and I was married, my parents came first in my mind, and then my wife. Unfortunately, that's what happened. You said the most important people in your life, and my parents came up in my head. And then I said, oh yeah, my wife too.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that's about all I got.
He always has interesting past lives. For some of the, like, I used to practice with him all the time, and he was like, I don't really want to do this. You know? I'll lay here, but, you know, I'm not going to do this. And then all of a sudden it started coming, and every time there was something interesting come through. Yeah.
I felt more of a connection to, instead of, you know, who I was or whatever, just the other person was the most important person in your life. You know, I got this like, really crazy emotional connection when I visualized that. I was like, my missing half, that's my missing half, my soulmate. You know, and I just, I feel like, okay, I kind of felt sad, like, you know, that negative thing. Like, where's my soulmate now? I miss that. You know, and then, but then I'm thinking that perhaps I do have it in the form of a son, which is very strange because this is like,
That happens.
yeah. So my question to you is, do the same people the important people keep reoccurring in every life?
Yes, they do.
They're like right there, always.
And they don't come back in the same role. So sometimes they may be your mother in one life and your husband in the next life and your sister in the following life.
It's very.
So your soulmate does not necessarily mean a romantic soulmate, because you have more than one soulmate, and it's just these different connections. You know,
It's very.
like me and you. We're soulmates, and we've probably been together in the past, and we'll be together in the future, and maybe you may be my husband next time.
So they do stay. They do. They're all kind of connected. I mean, it's not like they're in the same time period, but you're never going to meet them. They're always going to be in your life.
Well, you may. I mean, I don't know how expansive people's soulmates are, and I don't know what the degrees are. I don't know if they're like, let's say that there's a grade, you know, and maybe your grade A soulmate is your son, who maybe been someone that you're romantically involved with in the past, and you know,
There's
maybe
a
your father
beautiful-
next time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
There's a book, I think I've talked to you about this book, and I shared it with Barbara, called Journey of Souls. If you haven't read that
Michael
book,
Newton's work.
it's a great book for exactly what you're
Destiny
talking
of
about.
Souls, Journey of Souls.
Yeah, I would start with
Michael
Journey of
Newton
Souls.
does work with life between lives. Looking at your soul groups and what you were doing before you incarnated in this plane here. It's very interesting to find out about that, and people's experiences about how they're reluctant. I don't want to go and do this. And they tell them, well, you know, this would be better for your to be evolving. To go into this life. Well, I don't want to do. I want to go back in the same kind of life I had. And all these kind of things, and how these people go into these little groups, these soul groups that have like almost connections, that they contract with each other. We will be here for you for all these lives to help you. We'll meet you at this certain time. Carolyn Mace talks about that too, with sacred contracts. So, there's a lot of material out there.
It just feels kind of sad, though, in a way, that if he's my son, I can't have that kind of relationship.
No.
He'll go on, and he'll have a wife and move away, and I'll be left alone, you know.
Well, I have the same kind of feeling with my son Sean. You know, I feel like we must have been together somewhere in the past, because the bond I feel with him it seems more than normal relationship. And you see how I am with my son. My Sean. That's all I do.
And it doesn't mean that's the only connection like that out there for you. It's not just one connection.
It's not one.
You could have the same intensity of connection with another person who comes into your life.
I do feel like this entire life I've been trying to find that my other half, and I have a husband. I'm like, that's just not it. You know, I love him, but he's not my soulmate. I can feel him. You know, and I keep thinking,
Well,
he's
tell
out
me,
there.
how many times did it take me to find him?
Yeah.
He's number 4. I'm a slow learner, okay? So, you know, it's different. And Sharon's my soulmate, and Mark is also my soulmate. There's a connection with him that's different than any other husband I've had. So, you know, just learn to open up and just go within.
Any partial stories, like you kind of did, but you didn't, like form the whole scenario, but just like a little moment?
I did. It was just as soon as we went over the bridge, like all the scenery was there, but like that was it. And then like I was like, okay, like, but it was like crazy, amazing. And then all of a sudden some dude popped up, and I was like, oh, that must be me. And he was just super, super excited to be there. And that's it. And then like the time kind of like started trickling in. It was like the early 1900s, like 1918 between
That's exactly where I was.
1923.
1918.
But for me, I've gotten more, and that's why it was just like you're saying all these prompts, and it's like I don't know if there was a delay or something, but it's like the stuff was coming through, and then for the rest of the time, I just saw postcards, like as if there was just that on the TV, and it was just going up, and I was like, oh nice, I can't read any of these words. And so, but I knew that they were postcards, and that's it. And that's, I mean, no one came through like who's the most important person. He was just super, super psyched to be, and I think it was British Columbia.
Oh, see?
And so I was just like, this is awesome. And then
that you didn't get anything.
Well, sometimes I would have a regression, and I'm just focused on the moss on the rock. That's how I am. I'm like, well, come on. Come on! Anyone else before we go on? Nope. Done talking to me. Okay.
One thing I find it's as a psychologist, we're bound to do therapies. We have to do therapies that have been verified as therapeutic.
I don't know.
What's that called? There's a phrase, it's like a catchphrase nowadays. Everybody talks about it. You're doing that. You're doing verified. It's a standard of care. You have to. If you don't, you're practicing outside.
Evidence-based?
Yeah, evidence-based. There, that's the phrase. And so, to me, it's like ridiculous because you can create evidence almost anywhere.
That's
but
true.
at the same time, I just kind of relish the moment when I get to say, oh, guess what? Therapy is now evidence-based, past life regression therapy.
Well, my study was in a peer-reviewed journal.
Yeah.
So that's,
And I think that one thing I want to say is that, in an environment like this, you're kind of like dipping your toe into the type of experience of past life regression. Now, just imagine that you're doing it with a coach one-on-one, where they can walk the path with you, but you're kind of leading the path, and yet they're helping you along to not get stuck, like taking you and your enthusiasm and whatever other partials that you were able to go, because the tandem experience of having a coach that helps you walk through the path, maybe session after session, like Brian Weiss illustrates in his many books, maybe just for a session, but it's very powerful, and I really encourage people to do it because evidence-based therapies, this is actually one of them that we can actually say people have very definite change point of view, and they don't even have to believe that it's authentic. There's something about the narrative that they go through that transforms perspectives profoundly often.
When I worked with Donna, I would get stuck or something, and she would ask me the next question. So I don't see anything. I don't see anything else. She says, "Well, are you indoors, you outdoors?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm outdoors, of course." I turned around, and there it was all seen. So working with someone, it is very beneficial, and story is really important. I was just in an article last week, I don't know if you had a chance to read it, about past life and story, and how actually we're hardwired for story. So this is why I think it's so powerful, because we are actually use story as a way of survival. It gives us context for our life. So, okay, I have a few more. You wanted to ask a question?
Well, I guess I'm still kind of struggling with all of this in terms of my own experience. I so wanted to see something so badly, and then when you started asking questions, I was like, okay, and I would just like create something, but it never felt like it came to me. It felt like I was just kind of making up this image because I wanted something to be there. I didn't want to just see nothing.
So if you're making up the image, are you making it up, or is you really was pulling it from someplace that you didn't want to go accept?
That's what I'm trying to find out. That's what I'm asking you. Like, what are you supposed to experience? Because I never felt like I easily could visualize everything in terms of choosing a beautiful place and a childhood memory and all of that, and walking over the bridge. But like you were saying,
Do you remember?
And there's nothing there. And so then when you said, well, indoors or outdoors, just choose one.
Choose
so I
one.
said, okay, I'll be outdoors. And then
because sometimes we know, but we're afraid to go and say it because we think it should be more powerful. No, we already know, but we just don't want to go and accept it. We doubt ourselves.
because I never felt like what you were describing, like you just turned it, there was something that I never got that. I'm like, okay, I'll be walking down a cobblestone, and I would try to like create something to have something.
Dr. Donna Kennard did say that I was an exceptional case, and it was my first experience, and it was not normal, So.
Can I help
Yeah,
answer that?
please.
Therapeutically, it doesn't seem to matter if you're on purpose making it up just to satisfy the therapist, or if it just comes to you. Because it's still just, if you're making it up, it's still just coming to you, right? So I have found, and I think most have found, that it doesn't seem to make any difference. It's just as real even if you think you're making it up, or if you're having a memory. However it comes, it's still coming from you. They're all coming from the same place. And therapeutically, it doesn't seem to make any difference. It's just as powerful.
But is it coming really from a past life or just somewhere in my subconscious?
And the answer is it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't
in terms
matter.
of therapeutic and good.
Yeah.
So what's fun? So let's just say that she was with you and with any of you, and she and you said that here you are with your eyes closed. Well, I'm outside, and then she asks you the next question. She could actually lead you to explore your own imagination. At a certain point in time, your imagination begins to wire itself more intricately, as if you're discovering as opposed to creating. But it's like you have to walk into it creating it first, and then you start discovering it. It's like you let go of the need to know fact and truth. I don't know if that's a way of describing it from your point of view. Then after a while, when you're discovering it, then you just kind of let it flow, and you're noticing things, and you realize that you are having an experience that feels oddly unfamiliar to memory in this 3D world, but oddly familiar, like you were saying, in that world. So you just kind of allow you have a moment of going, well, okay, skeptic, out the door, okay. And then you walk in a little bit farther, and then you allow yourself to really immerse yourself in it. But often I think it takes someone helping you walk into that comfortably until your imagination goes into creation, which goes into discovery. Then you come back to this 3D world, and you actually have like the picture of the boat in front of you, and you can go investigate that. Or you have the image on the shield that you can go and see if there's an emblem there. Or you have an address or a date or a time, or you look down and you saw a certain garb. That's when you can go and investigate if there's any relevance in fact, especially with the internet. And you begin to go, whoa, this is intriguing. And then after you have that first kind of, this is intriguing moment, and you do it again, then you're a little bit more trusting of what it's like when you go through the creation into the discovery. And that's the way I would describe it.
You've explained it perfectly.
Yeah.
And then you get to the point where it doesn't matter whether you can find the shield. Because then you say, well, how did it affect me in my life today? So none of that really mattered in the first place. And the best thing that I got out of this whole thing was it made me more comfortable in being in Heather's body. I started to really honor the person that I was incarnated in this time. If I am not the knight, and I am not the monk, and I'm not that, and I'm not really Heather. But I think that because I chose this body, the best thing to do is to honor who I am. And so that's what I got. That's the best gift I got out of this whole thing. Okay. So this picture, I'm going to go back into, I have a couple more slides, and then I'll leave you guys alone, I promise. This picture is taken at La Casa de Maria in Santa Barbara. We took that when we went to some kind of Omega retreat. We did a reunion there. So next slide, honey. Just a couple of follow-up things. We're actually having a retreat November 1st through 3rd, which we have a bunch of psychiatrists, a bunch of people that are trained from Dr. Weiss speaking. The next slide will tell you about them. We're going to have wine tasting, and those are a couple of more pictures from there. There's a labyrinth there. There's hypnosis and regressions all weekend long by qualified therapists. Keynote speaker, Bruce Gregory from Omega also. And all your meals are included, and all the rooms have been filled. We do have commuter slots available, day slots if you're interested. And the postcard is back on the table, and all the information on the website. So I think the next slide kind of shows you some of the speakers we have. Dr. Adrian Finkelstein, he's a former UCLA psychiatry professor, he's a psychiatrist. He wrote 2 books, Marilyn Monroe Returns and By Love Reclaimed, which is a story of Jean Harlow. And he was supposed to be Paul Byrne, Jean Harlow's husband. What's interesting is Jean Harlow, which is Valerie Franich, she's coming to the retreat too as a guest. She just decided, I'll come. So she'll be there too, Jean Harlow reincarnated. So that should be interesting. And then we have Dr. Charles Null, who's the vice president of the International Association of Regression Research and Therapies. We have Walter Jacobson, trained by Omega as a psychiatrist. And those are some of the pictures. So that's them. And I have a couple books out. We're going to actually show you the book trailers in 1 minute. But I have my first book here. Tonight, it's $13.99, but I'm selling it for $12 tonight. And this is my new novel. It's a past life novel, and it just came out last week. And it goes for $11.99, but I'm selling it for $10 tonight, or 2 for $20. Now, this book, I'm obsessed with past lives, if you haven't figured that out by now. So, I don't know what it was. I woke up early in the morning, and an entire past life story downloaded into my head early in the morning before I woke. And I was so excited. I told Mark about it. I said, Mark, this whole story came to me. And so I kept thinking about this story. Who was the character? And I'm sitting in Marjorie Miles' class. So you go to that writing class, and you go to there. And the character first started talking to me, Tess. And she has not stopped talking since. In fact, she's so in my head that sometimes I get my memory mixed up with hers. And no, that didn't happen to me, it happened to Tess. And so that's what this book came from.
To live stream now.
Hi, I'm Dr. Carol Francis. I'm a clinical psychologist and marriage and family child therapist. I want to talk to you in this moment about panic attacks. Panic attacks occur in all sorts of situations, some that are very realistic. In other words, it's normal to have a panic in those moments. Dr. Carol Francis. I've been working with children for 36 years. I'm licensed as a clinical psychologist and have been also licensed as a marriage and family and child therapist. Children are very variable. To Carol Francis, I've been working with children for 30 wisdom, savvy, creative interventions. All you wish, but take really good care of your family.
No more knife. No, done. Completed. Hi. What are you doing?
To Carol Francis, I've been working, but take really good care of your family. Wisdom, savvy, and creative interventions. Call me if you wish, but take really good care of your family.
6:02. Okay, so now.
To Carol Francis, I've been working with children for
So how do we edit you? How do we complete you? All right, need to be done. Need to be done. How to